Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. Today I have a little bit of dolly talk and a little bit of space memorabilia talk. And I've got two Rainbow High dolls here. And I'm going to talk a little bit about each of the dolls. And you can see they're wearing space jackets. Okay, this jacket actually came from another Rainbow High, actually a Shadow High doll called Zooey. And I've been wanting Zooey for a really long time, but honestly, I realized I just wanted her jacket, so I found it on eBay and I bought the jacket. It's really cool. Really, really cool. And then I just put it on one of the Rainbow High dolls I already had. And then this jacket I got off of a site on eBay. Not eBay, I'm sorry, Etsy. I got it off an Etsy shop a while back, and it's really supposed to be for Blythe dolls, but of course it fits the Rainbow High dolls, no problemo. And then I found just some little outfits for them, little mix match of Rainbow High, Barbie, Collectible World, Rainbow High. They've got their little bags out here because they just went to the Artemis 2 launch. And I thought it would be a fun time to kind of talk about these dolls and my experience in the space industry a little bit. So I grew up on what's called the Space Coast of Florida in Brevard County. My father was a NASA engineer. He's no longer with us, unfortunately, but he has a lot of space memorabilia, and I realized I actually have a smidgy. I might have more as I go through the home. I'm going through our home of 25 plus years, and I found all kinds of stuff I'd forgotten about. So, like I said, my dad was a NASA engineer. We came down for the Apollo program around 1968, and I was about 4 years old then. So, I grew up in the area. We used to go to launches all the time. He worked on Apollo, he worked on the space shuttle briefly, and then he also worked on the Atlas. So he'd been all over the place out there. Then oddly enough, in the late-ish 1980s, my first professional job out of college was as a operation and maintenance documentation publication writer, they called us. Basically, it's a technical writer. I worked for Lockheed Space Operations out there at Kennedy Space Center. I was at the time living in Orlando. I had just I was finishing up my master's degree in literature. And I went to a job fair because I still wasn't sure what I was going to do. I went to this job fair. My dad actually suggested it and got a few leads, and that led to a couple of interviews, and then I finally got hired. And this, of course, was a few years after the horrible shuttle accident with the Challenger, and they were gearing up for what they call return to space, and they needed to rewrite about 2,500 documents. So they needed lots and lots of technical writers, and finally my English degree mattered. And of course they trained me about what to do. They trained me. I was just a little kid. I was actually 23 years old when I was graduating with my master's. So I went to school kind of early because I'm a nerd. But I'm going to flip this camera around and we'll look at the doll some more, and then I'll show you just a couple of goodies I have here. All right, so I have Cheryl Meyer here and Phaedra Westward. She's a textile design. Cheryl's a textile design student. And Phaedra is a cosmetology student. And I did a video recently for my 2026 A Doll a Day series. And if you missed that, I have a playlist where I'm showing a doll every day in 2026. So I did one already about Cheryl. But Phaedra, she is one of just a few Rainbow High dolls that I have decided to keep. I love her hair. I mean, it's just amazing. The rainbow colors, the purple, the little bits here around her face, her eyelashes and her eyeshadow. She's just a gorgeous, gorgeous doll. Beautiful doll. A little bit difficult for me to photograph sometimes because of her very dark skin. And I think she looks really cool in this super fun little space. This kind of looks like a, you know, NASA faux kind of stuff going on here. It does not say NASA. It actually says Shadow on there. But like I said, I really just wanted the jacket, so I talked myself out of getting Zooey and just got the jacket, and Phaedra gets to wear it. All right, so some of the memorabilia I have here. This is actually a letter. It's still sealed. That's my maiden name. November 14th, 1969. It says Kennedy Space Center on there. And this was for Apollo 12. And there's a letter in here from the astronauts. And this is actually something I found tucked away when we went through my dad's stuff. He has a massive collection of memorabilia like this. He has lots of letters and, you know, all kinds of stuff. A lot of it is actually signed by the astronauts at the time. And we're not really sure what to do with it. You know, we're definitely keeping a lot of it. But this was actually addressed to me, and each of my sisters had one as well. We did open one of them. I didn't open this yet, but my little sister opened hers. And like I said, it was some kind of letter that said something about, you know, the Apollo 12, and then it was signed by these astronauts here. So pretty cool. And then this, I don't really know why I have this. This is Skylab 2. Again, it has the astronaut's names on it. There you go. And I don't see a date on here, oddly enough. So I do remember the Skylab. In fact, I remember when I was in the late 80s, like I said, this was about 1987, I believe, is when I was getting ready to graduate. And I was going around and getting these interviews and stuff. And I think there was one of the interviews was going to be working on Skylab. I didn't get that job, but... And then this is a little stick pin thingy that I found in my jewelry box. And it's really hard to see the writing on there. But you can see the space shuttle. And I had to Google it because I could not remember. I mean, I knew I got it for the space shuttle, but I wasn't like, what's the point of this? What's the point of this pen? You know, why did they give it to technical writers at the time? After doing some online research, I found out that the NSRS stands for NASA Safety Reporting System. And then you can barely read it here, but there's a word here, here, and here. There's 3 words around it in the light blue around the space shuttle that says confidential, voluntary, responsive. And basically it means you're not going to get in trouble if you see something happen that's bad or wrong, and that could cause safety problems, because that was later discovered that, you know, part of the problems with the Challenger, there were safety issues that were dismissed, even though some people had said something about it. So they were really into safety and quality when I was there. That was a huge dealio. When I worked on the books, I worked on the documentation. A lot of what I did were things like mechanical type related books. And even though I knew nothing about mechanical engineering, I was an English student, and so I was used to learning how to do things like follow instructions. We had a manual called Sue 2 that had all kinds of formatting instructions in it. And I worked on the second shift. They hired so many of us that they did not have desks for us. So I was on the second shift and we had to share a desk, and an older gentleman would bring all of us young women. Most of us were, I don't think they had very few guys that they hired, now that I think about it. There was all these young women, most of us fresh out of college, and he would bring us all together in a cubicle with our C2 manuals and teach us like a teacher and tell us, explain the you know, how to format the book, the procedures we had to follow to get the book done. And let me just say, all of this was before we had computers. I did everything with a red pen, and we had a group of typists, I guess they were called. I can't remember what they were called, but they had these humongous machines that they typed stuff on. They typed your manual on, and then they would print out these big, thick, we called them floppies, but they were huge chunks of paper that were all attached together. And then you would go through that, and we would get red lines, markings, and instructions and that kind of thing from the engineers that were working on the procedures that we were writing up, as well as safety and quality control engineers. And so we would have maybe 3 or 4 different engineers give us input, handwritten, and we would handwrite it in the big manual and then give it to the person who typed it up. and then we would proofread it and send it back, because usually not everything was fixed like it was supposed to. And we'd do this back and forth till it was all clean, and then we'd have meetings and on and on and on. So yeah, that was it was a really good experience as a writer. I learned a lot about deadlines, following instructions. I could see how writing actually had an application in the real world. A lot of that's probably going away these days, but yeah, we did not have computers until I went to another job. After that job, I did move on to another company that was a defense contractor that I also wrote manuals for them. And that was the first time. I think I was at Lockheed for 2 years. Yeah, so about 1987, no computers, folks. Everything was done by hand. And we got a shuttle with people in it safely up in the air, so up into space. So anyway, I hope this wasn't too boring for you. I thought it would be apropos to bring out these dolls since I had these really cute space-related jackets. And my thoughts and good vibes are going up to the astronauts in Artemis 2. I think it's wonderful to bring man back into space. I'm very pro-space, obviously. It's the reason, that's everything about how I grew up. And there's a lot of good things that have come out of the space program for mankind. So I'm very much pro-space, that's for sure. So let me know your thoughts about the dollies, about the space situation, about Artemis 2 right now. As usual, give this a thumbs up. Thanks for stopping by and spending a little dolly time with me. Have a wonderful dolly day. Bye-bye.